Okay, so today let's dive into something that I think everyone probably thinks about at some point, right? Emergencies. And we've gotten a ton of articles from all of you about personal finance, so we're going to try to pick out the most helpful advice for, actually building a financial safety net. And here's the thing, there's actually like a general rule for how much you should save for emergencies.
Yeah,
It might be more than you think.
yeah, definitely could be.
So one of the articles you sent, What is an Emergency Fund and How to Start One, says it's essentially just like a separate stash of money.
Uh-huh.
Ideally, it's in an account that's really easy to access and, maybe even earns a little bit of interest, like a high yield savings account or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Like, a financial airbag.
Oh, I like that.
You hope you never need it, but, if you hit a bump in the road, it's there to kind of soften the blow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, emergency funds aren't just about, avoiding debt if something bad
Yeah.
happens. They can actually give you a sense of like control and peace of mind,
Mm.
which is so valuable.
Right. Just knowing that you've got a backup plan. And that peace of mind can even help you make better financial decisions overall
Absolutely.
because you're not panicking, when something unexpected pops up.
Exactly. You don't have to make rash choices or like resort to debt
Mm.
because you've got that cushion.
You've got that backup. So, okay, how much are we actually supposed to be aiming for? I mean, the article recommends 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved,
Hmm.
which, I mean, that sounds like a lot. But, I mean, think about it. If you suddenly lose your job or get hit with a massive medical bill, that cushion could be huge, right?
Totally. And it's, important to remember that 3 to 6 months is just a general guideline.
Sure.
Your personal situation might require a bit more or a bit less. It all depends on you.
Right.
Do you have a stable job? Do you have dependents? Do you have health conditions?
Yeah.
All of those factors play a role.
They all play into it.
Right. In how much you might need to feel truly secure.
Totally. So it's all about figuring out what gives you that peace of mind. But even if that number seems like, oh my gosh, too much, the article says even starting with like $500 is a good starting point,
Yeah.
just to give you that little initial buffer.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of like small, consistent contributions.
Yeah.
Even setting up an automatic transfer to your emergency fund, even if it's just a small amount from each paycheck,
Yeah.
that can really add up over time.
Little by little, it all adds up. The article talks a lot about choosing the right account,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be easy to access when you need it,
Right.
but you also want it to, ideally grow a little while it's sitting there. That's why high-yield savings accounts and money market accounts are so often recommended.
Now, I've never really understood the difference between those two.
Okay.
I mean, they both just seem like savings accounts to me.
Well, a money market account is similar to a savings account, but it typically requires a higher minimum balance.
Okay.
And they might come with check writing privileges or a debit card.
Oh.
And usually the interest rates on those are a bit higher than regular savings accounts.
Okay, interesting. So you can potentially earn more with a money market account, but the article seems to really emphasize like high yield savings accounts specifically. What's so special about those?
Well, they're essentially just savings accounts that offer like a higher interest rate compared to traditional savings accounts.
Okay.
The key is to shop around, find a bank or a credit union that's offering a competitive rate.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So higher interest equals your money is working a little bit harder for you, even if it's just sitting there. The article has this great tip about keeping your emergency fund in a separate bank
Oh, yeah?
from your regular checking account.
That's a smart strategy.
Yeah.
Because it helps reduce the temptation to dip into your emergency savings for things that aren't actually emergencies.
Right, out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
So that brings up another good point, which is what actually counts as a true financial emergency?
It's a great question. And it's not about those like, new shoes you've been eyeing
Right.
or a weekend getaway. A true financial emergency is something unexpected that throws your budget off track.
Right, right.
Things like job loss or major car repairs, unexpected medical bills, those sorts of things that can really put a strain on your finances.
The article gives the example of a car accident. Say your insurance deductible is $1,000.
Right.
But then you also have medical bills, and you need to rent a car while yours is being repaired. And
Yeah.
suddenly that $1,000 deductible doesn't seem like enough.
Totally. Or imagine like your furnace breaks down in the middle of winter.
Oh, yeah.
That's not something you can really put off, and it could cost a lot to fix. And these are the situations where having a solid emergency fund can really prevent you from going into debt or having to make difficult financial choices.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we know we need an emergency fund, and we've talked about like how much to save and where to keep it. But sometimes even just starting to save feels kind of overwhelming. So any advice for those of us starting from scratch?
It can be, for sure. But, even those small steps can make a huge difference over time. Like one of the articles suggests thinking about it like training for a marathon. You wouldn't just try to run 26 miles on the first day.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You got to start with shorter runs
Right.
and gradually build up that endurance.
Right, you build up to it.
It's the same with saving.
Right.
Start with a manageable goal, like, $50 a month, $100 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then gradually increase it as you start to feel more comfortable.
The article mentions taking advantage of what they call windfalls, like if you get a tax refund
Yes.
or a bonus.
Yeah.
I've actually used that before. It's a great way to just like give your emergency fund this big boost.
It's a smart move.
Hmm?
And don't forget about those side hustles.
Oh, yeah.
Even just a few extra hours a week doing something you enjoy, that can generate some additional income that you can then put towards your savings goals.
One of the articles actually had like a whole section on creative ways to increase your savings.
Yeah, I saw it.
And they even said selling your unused items online,
Oh, yeah.
like on eBay or Facebook Marketplace.
Love that.
Just get rid of all that clutter.
It's like turning clutter into cash.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
And there are so many good resources online that can help you, price your items effectively and make sure you're, maximizing those profits.
It's a win-win. You get rid of stuff and you boost your savings. But I think one of the hardest parts is like resisting that temptation to use the money for stuff that isn't a true emergency.
Oh, absolutely. You got to have clear boundaries and
Yeah.
and really remind yourself why you're building this fund in the first place.
Right.
It's your safety net.
Right.
It's not just like a slush fund
Right.
for random impulse purchases.
The article made a good point about, knowing the difference between a need
Yeah,
and a want.
for sure.
Like a true emergency is a need. It's something that has to be addressed, right away. But that new gadget you've had your eye on,
Yeah,
that's a want.
definitely a want. And it's helpful to even like have a plan for those wants.
Yeah.
Maybe, set up a separate savings account for vacations or for new electronics.
Right.
That way you're not tempted to touch the emergency fund.
When you get those urges.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like having a clear budget is really important.
It's essential. If you don't know where your money's going, it's so hard to make informed decisions about how to save and where to cut back.
For sure. The article recommends actually tracking all your expenses
Oh, yeah.
for a month or two,
That's a great exercise.
just to get like a realistic picture
Mhm.
of your spending habits.
Yeah.
And honestly, you might be surprised.
You might be.
Yeah.
You might find those little, what I call money leaks that you didn't even realize you had.
Right.
Like maybe it's your daily latte or that subscription you never use.
Mm-hmm.
Once you identify those, you can start, plugging those leaks.
Right. And redirect it.
Exactly. And put that towards your emergency savings.
It's amazing how much those little things can add up over time.
Totally, yeah.
But even with the best of intentions, life happens. The article had a whole section on like unexpected pet expenses. And it made me think about my own dog, What if he needed to go to the emergency vet?
It's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
We often budget for, the routine pet care, but those surprise emergencies, those can be really financially draining.
Yeah.
So having that emergency fund can make a world of difference in those situations.
It's like an extra layer of protection, not just for you, but like for your furry friends too.
And remember, building an emergency fund, it's an ongoing process. Your needs and your circumstances will change over time. So it's important to, periodically reassess your savings goals and make adjustments as needed. Like if you get a raise, consider increasing your contributions. If you move to a more expensive city, you'll need to bump up those savings goals.
Right. So it's all about just being like flexible
Exactly.
and adapting to whatever happens in your life.
Exactly. And don't forget to, celebrate those little milestones along the way, right?
Yeah.
Each step you take towards building a solid emergency fund is a step towards greater, financial security and peace of mind.
Absolutely. It's true. Celebrating the little wins can definitely keep you going, motivated. Going through all these articles, it really highlighted something for me. It's not just about the money, like having an emergency fund. It's almost like an investment in your mental health.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. The psychological benefits are often overlooked. It reduces stress, it helps you sleep better at night, and it frees you up to, focus on other things.
Yeah, it's like a weight's been lifted. You're not constantly worrying about, oh my gosh, what if something happens?
Exactly. And that feeling of security can, y- you know, empower you to make different choices in other areas of your life. Maybe you're more likely to take a risk, start that business you've always dreamed of, or even just pursue a hobby, something that brings you joy.
Right. You're not so afraid to, branch out.
Yeah, it frees up your mental energy to
Yeah.
focus on the things that really matter. And let's not forget, I mean, building an emergency fund is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it is.
It takes discipline, planning, commitment.
Totally. So, to wrap things up, what's the one thing we want our listener to remember today?
Building an emergency fund, it's not just a smart financial move. It's a crucial step towards taking control of your financial well-being,
Hmm.
creating a more secure life.
Hmm.
It's about, building that foundation of stability so you can handle, whatever life throws at you with confidence and resilience.
You need that emergency fund. Start small, automate your savings, choose the right account, and remember, it's for true emergencies, not for, impulse purchases.
And here's a final thought. What's one small change you can make, like today, to get started? Even $5 a week makes a difference over time. It's not about perfection, it's about progress.